And welcome back. So for problem number 4, it's a histogram. You can tell that it's a histogram because all these lines are touching. And we need to figure out what the ratio of participants who scored 20 to 39 to the total number of participants. So the first thing you need to do is figure out how many score from 20 to 39. So our 20 to 39 column is here. And it goes up to about 12. It looks like it could be a 13. I would actually take either, but we're going to work with 12 for right now. So if I have 12, since they say specifically that they want a ratio, that means that I need to make sure that I make my answer into a fraction. So in order to have a fraction, we have to have a bottom. They want the bottom number to be the total number of participants. If you read the directions carefully, you can see that there were a total of 100 participants, so my bottom number should be 100. That keeps you from having to total up all of these and possibly getting the wrong answer, because some of these it's hard to tell whether it's a 12 or a 13 kind of thing. So up here, when I reduce this, I end up with 6 over 50, which will also reduce down to 3 over 25. Please be sure it is completely reduced. If it's not completely reduced, then I have to take off. Also, if you had chosen the 13 like we had talked about, if you had said 13 over 100, that already is completely reduced. So you could have given me that answer and I would have been fine with it. You could have actually chosen 14 over 100 and reduced it and I would have been okay with it. You could have possibly chosen 11 over 100 and reduced it and I would have been okay with it. Anything else? Probably not, because it's clearly not 10 and it's clearly not 15. So be sure you pay attention to your numbers on the side and pay attention to which one column they are asking you for, and read the directions. Problem number 5. They want you to use the circle graph to answer the questions that they give you. So right here, they give us this lovely circle graph. Say comedy is 33.5%. They say very specifically they want you to round to the nearest whole, so a lot of people would go ahead and write 34% and be done with it. However, they didn't say anywhere that they wanted our answer to be percentage. Since that's not the case, but they did tell us how many adults were in the survey, that means we have to actually figure out how many adults said that. So we have to take our 1,700 and multiply it by our percentage, which would be 35.5%. Only you're not supposed to multiply it by a percent, you should need to multiply it by a decimal instead. So now we have our 1,700 times our 0.335 when I changed it to a decimal, and you should get that it is 569.5 people. Only you can't have a half of a person. Well, you can, but we won't talk about that here. You're not supposed to. They wanted you to round to the nearest whole. So when I round to the nearest whole, that's going to give me 570 people. Problem number 6. Problem number 6 is when we actually start getting into the graphing. So they want us to complete the ordered pairs for the given linear equation and plot the points in the graph of the equation by connecting the points. They give us our equation as 5x plus 6y is equal to 0. So I need to go in and plug in what they told me x was for each individual one. So I'm going to start, instead of plugging in my x first, by getting my 5x equal to my negative 6y. So I'm going to move my 6y on the other side. That gives me 5x is equal to negative 6y plus 0. 6y plus 0 is just our negative 6y. So when I go to plug in 5 times negative 6, because that's what x was in my first one, that gives me negative 6y over here. Negative 30 is equal to negative 6y, and I can divide both sides by negative 6 and get that 5 is equal to y. So in this particular case, we said negative 6 was our x and 5 was our y. Then on to the next one. Instead of redoing this calculation again, I'm just going to pick up from right here. So I have my 5 times, this time I'm using 0, is equal to negative 6y, plus the 0, which we know is going to just be our negative 6y. So 5 times 0 is 0 equals negative 6y. Divide both sides by negative 6, and you get that 0 is equal to y. 0 on top is always 0. So once again, we had 0 for our x and 0 for our y. Then plugging in our last one, 5 times 6 is equal to negative 6y plus our 0, which will just be a negative 6y. You get 30 is equal to negative 6y. Divide both sides by negative 6. And you get negative 5 is equal to y. So that's going to be the point 6, negative 5. Then I have to go and plot them on our lovely graph over here. Negative 6, 5, remember this is your x and that's your y, so on my x-axis I need to go to negative 6 and then go up to 5 on the y-axis. And that's my point. And then 0, 0 is in the middle, and then 6, negative 5 is 6 to the right, and then 5 down. Please be sure you actually connect the dots. Lots of people get on this test and they're so worried about getting the right dots, they never actually connect them. The actual line is what your answer is, and make sure you put the little arrows on the end of the line. Okay, so that should cover page 2. You can continue on now with page 3.